In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the merciful. Respected candidates, our topic is the Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976. In this lecture, we will study 100 important sentences from the topic. 2. The summary of the topic. 3. The MCQs derived from the topic. Whole of the current lecture is also available in written text form in the comments under this video at our YouTube channel, Pharmacy Jobs and MCQs. So, you can take or study the lecture in the comments. Let's start. The Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976. 100 important sentences about the Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976. 1. Enacted in 1976 to regulate the licensing, registration, and advertising of drugs in India. 2. Administered under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, 1940. 3. Aimed at ensuring the safety, efficacy, and quality of drugs available in the market. 4. Classified drugs into various categories based on their potential risks and usage. 5. Specifies conditions for obtaining licenses for the manufacture, sale, and distribution of drugs. 6. Establishes guidelines for the registration of drugs before they can be marketed. 7. Sets criteria for labeling and packaging of drugs to provide clear information to consumers. 8. Regulates drug advertising to prevent false or misleading claims. 9. Defines the roles and responsibilities of drug regulatory authorities. 10. Requires drug manufacturers to adhere to good manufacturing practices (GMP). 11. Specifies guidelines for clinical trials and research involving new drugs. 12. Includes provisions for the control of narcotic and psychotropic substances. 13. Requires documentation and record keeping by drug manufacturers and sellers. 14. Mandates regular inspections of drug manufacturing facilities to ensure compliance. 15. Prohibits the import, manufacture, sale, or distribution of spurious or adulterated drugs. 16. Provides mechanisms for reporting adverse drug reactions (ADRs) to regulatory authorities. 17. Specifies penalties for violations of the rules, including fines and imprisonment. 18. Encourages the use of generic names for drugs to promote transparency. 19. Establishes guidelines for the storage and transportation of drugs to maintain their quality. 20. Emphasizes the need for continuous monitoring and assessment of drug safety. 21. Facilitates the availability of essential drugs at affordable prices. 22. Requires manufacturers to maintain a quality control unit to oversee production processes. 23. Defines the qualifications and responsibilities of registered pharmacists. 24. Regulates the sale of prescription drugs to prevent misuse. 25. Establishes procedures for the inspection and audit of drug manufacturing facilities. 26. Promotes uniform standards for drug manufacturing across the country. 27. Requires manufacturers to obtain a no objection certificate (NOC) before introducing a new drug. 28. Specifies guidelines for labeling drugs with dosage instructions and warnings. 29. Defines the information to be included in drug promotional materials. 30. Prohibits the advertisement of certain categories of drugs, including Schedule 10 drugs. 31. Mandates the use of specific symbols on drug packaging for identification. 32. Provides guidelines for the manufacturing of Ayurvedic, Unani, and Siddha drugs. 33. Requires manufacturers to comply with guidelines for stability testing of drugs. 34. Specifies guidelines for the disposal of expired or unusable drugs. 35. Facilitates international collaboration and harmonization of drug regulations. 36. Establishes a framework for licensing and registration of clinical research organizations cross. 37. Empowers regulatory authorities to take action against non-compliant manufacturers. 38. Encourages public awareness about drug safety and reporting of ADRs. 39. Ensures that drugs are labeled in the language understood by the consumer. 40. Prohibits the sale of misbranded, adulterated, or substandard drugs. 41. Sets criteria for the approval of new drug formulations. 42. Regulates the sale of veterinary drugs and vaccines. 43. Specifies guidelines for the sale of over-the-counter OTC drugs. 44. Promotes the use of the generic name along with the brand name of drugs. 45. Requires manufacturers to obtain licenses for specific categories of drugs, such as blood products. 46. Empowers regulatory authorities to suspend or cancel licenses in case of violations. 47. Provides a framework for the inspection of drug testing laboratories. 48. Ensures that drug advertisements do not contain false, misleading, or exaggerated claims. 49. Mandates manufacturers to maintain adequate records of production and distribution. 50. Prohibits the sale of drugs without proper labeling or packaging. 51. Requires manufacturers to obtain permission for the manufacture of drugs for export. 52. Sets guidelines for the use of color coding on drug packaging. 53. Regulates the sale of medical devices and diagnostic products. 54. Provides provisions for the recall of drugs from the market if found unsafe. 55. Promotes the use of standardized and internationally accepted testing methods. 56. Establishes guidelines for the use of barcodes on drug packaging. 57. Regulates the sale of Ayurvedic, Unani, and Siddha medicines. 58. Mandates the inclusion of expiry dates on drug labels. 59. Specifies requirements for obtaining licenses for wholesale distribution of drugs. 60. Requires manufacturers to follow specific protocols for stability testing. 61. Regulates the sale of patented and proprietary medicines. 62. Mandates manufacturers to follow proper waste disposal procedures. 63. Establishes procedures for the registration of manufacturing sites. 64. Promotes transparency in drug pricing and distribution. 65. Requires manufacturers to maintain a quality assurance system. 66. Regulates the sale of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. 67. Specifies guidelines for the labeling of Ayurvedic and herbal medicines. 68. Prohibits the sale of drugs beyond their expiry date. 69. Requires manufacturers to have a designated person responsible for regulatory compliance. 70. Regulates the import and export of drugs and pharmaceuticals. 71. Mandates manufacturers to follow guidelines for the testing of raw materials. 72. Sets requirements for the storage and transportation of vaccines. 73. Prohibits the sale of drugs without a valid license. 74. Specifies requirements for obtaining licenses for repackaging of drugs. 75. Regulates the sale of orphan drugs for rare diseases. 76. Mandates the inclusion of warnings and precautions on drug labels. 77. Provides a framework for the classification of drugs based on their potential risks. 78. Regulates the sale of hormonal preparations and contraceptives. 79. Requires manufacturers to maintain a record of adverse reactions. 80. Promotes the use of pharmacovigilance to monitor drug safety. 81. Specifies guidelines for the use of trademarks on drug packaging. 82. Regulates the sale of bulk drugs and active pharmaceutical ingredients. 83. Mandates manufacturers to follow guidelines for the testing of finished products. 84. Provides a framework for the registration of medical representatives. 85. Promotes the use of standard terminology in drug labeling. 86. Regulates the sale of cosmetics and toiletries containing drugs. 87. Specifies requirements for obtaining licenses for import of drugs. 88. Mandates manufacturers to follow specific guidelines for labeling of Ayurvedic products. 89. Prohibits the sale of drugs without proper pricing information. 90. Sets guidelines for the sale of herbal and traditional medicines. 91. Regulates the sale of veterinary drugs and feed additives. 92. Mandates manufacturers to conduct bioequivalence studies for certain drugs. 93. Specifies requirements for obtaining licenses for blood banks. 94. Promotes the use of child-resistant packaging for certain drugs. 95. Regulates the sale of antiseptics and disinfectants. 96. Mandates manufacturers to follow guidelines for the testing of cosmetics. 97. Requires manufacturers to maintain a record of batch-wise production. 98. Specifies guidelines for the registration of contract manufacturing sites. 99. Promotes the use of standardized dosage forms for drugs. 100. Regulates the sale of diagnostic kits and reagents. 2. Details about the topic. Details about drugs licensing, registration and advertising rules, 1976. Introduction. The Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976, hold immense significance in Pakistan's pharmaceutical regulatory framework. Enacted under the Drugs Act, 1976, these rules serve as a comprehensive guideline for the licensing, registration, and advertising of drugs. The rules are designed to ensure the safety, efficacy, and quality of pharmaceutical products, protect public health, and promote ethical practices in the industry. Licensing of drug manufacturers. The rules establish a robust system for the licensing of drug manufacturers in Pakistan. Prior to obtaining a license, manufacturers must demonstrate compliance with strict criteria, including adherence to Good Manufacturing Practices (GMP). The inspection of manufacturing facilities is conducted to ensure that processes are in line with prescribed standards, guaranteeing the production of safe and effective medicines. This step acts as a bulwark against substandard and counterfeit drugs, safeguarding the health of consumers. Registration of drugs. The process of registering drugs under the rules involves thorough scrutiny of safety, efficacy, and quality data. The Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan (DRAP) reviews clinical trial data and scientific evidence to ascertain the drug's therapeutic benefits and potential risks. Stringent evaluation helps prevent the entry of unproven or harmful substances into the market, enhancing patient safety and fostering confidence in the pharmaceutical industry. Advertising regulations. The rules lay down stringent guidelines for the advertising of drugs to prevent deceptive or misleading promotions. Advertisements must be accurate, transparent, and supported by scientific evidence. This approach ensures that consumers receive factual information about the drug's properties, benefits, and risks. Moreover, the rules prohibit the advertising of prescription drugs directly to the general public, emphasizing the importance of responsible and informed medical decision-making. Labeling and packaging requirements. Proper labeling and packaging are critical to informing consumers about the correct use and potential risks of drugs. The rules mandate comprehensive labeling that includes essential information such as the drug's name, composition, dosage, instructions for use, and storage conditions. Standardized packaging reduces the likelihood of medication errors and enhances patient safety. Import and export regulations. The rules also address the import and export of drugs, ensuring that imported products meet the same stringent standards as domestically manufactured ones. This measure prevents the influx of substandard or unapproved drugs from foreign markets, protecting the health of Pakistani consumers and maintaining fair trade practices. Challenges and future directions. While the Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976, have played a pivotal role in ensuring the quality and safety of drugs in Pakistan, the pharmaceutical landscape is evolving. The emergence of new technologies, globalization, and changing healthcare needs pose challenges that call for periodic updates and revisions to the rules. Stakeholders have advocated for streamlined approval processes, faster access to innovative treatments, and enhanced transparency to keep pace with advancements in the industry. Conclusion. The Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976, are a cornerstone of Pakistan's pharmaceutical regulatory framework. These comprehensive guidelines regulate various aspects of drug manufacturing, registration, advertising, labeling, and import-export, contributing to public health and consumer protection. As the pharmaceutical industry continues to evolve, ongoing efforts to modernize and adapt these rules will be essential to ensure that Pakistan remains at the forefront of safe and effective drug regulation, benefiting the health and well-being of its citizens. MCQs derived from the topic. Question 1. What is the main purpose of the Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976, in Pakistan's pharmaceutical regulatory framework? A. Promote international trade. B. Safeguard consumer rights. C. Boost pharmaceutical exports. D. Increase advertising revenue. Correct answer. B. Safeguard consumer rights. Question 2. Which law enacts the Drugs Licensing, Registration and Advertising Rules, 1976? A. Pharmaceuticals Act, 1976. B. Medicines Act, 1976. C. Drug Regulatory Act, 1976. D. Drugs Act, 1976. Correct answer. D. Drugs Act, 1976. Question 3. What is the primary focus of the rules regarding drug manufacturers in Pakistan? A. Maximizing profits. B. Reducing production costs. C. Ensuring compliance with GMP. D. Expanding market reach. Correct answer. C. Ensuring compliance with GMP. Question 4. What is the purpose of inspecting manufacturing facilities under the rules? A. To increase production capacity. B. To ensure compliance with international standards. C. To reduce taxes. D. To reduce advertising costs. Correct answer. B. To ensure compliance with international standards. Question 5. Which regulatory body reviews clinical trial data and scientific evidence for drug registration in Pakistan? A. Pakistan Medical Association (PMA). B. Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan DRAP. C. Pakistan Pharmacy Council PPC. D. Pakistan Health Authority PHA. Correct answer: B. Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan DRAP. Question 6. What is the main purpose of the advertising guidelines under the rules? A. Maximize profits for pharmaceutical companies. B. Inform consumers about all available drugs. C. Prevent deceptive or misleading promotions. D. Boost competition among drug manufacturers. Correct answer: C. Prevent deceptive or misleading promotions. Question 7. Why is the advertising of prescription drugs directly to the general public prohibited under the rules? A. To reduce advertising costs. B. To encourage self-medication. C. To emphasize medical supervision. D. To increase sales. Correct answer: C. To emphasize medical supervision. Question 8. What is the purpose of comprehensive labeling and packaging requirements under the rules? A. Increase production efficiency. B. Enhance patient safety and awareness. C. Attract more consumers. D. Reduce environmental impact. Correct answer: B. Enhance patient safety and awareness. Question 9. Why do the rules address the import and export of drugs in Pakistan? A. To increase taxes on imports. B. To encourage international trade. C. To protect consumers from substandard or unapproved drugs. D. To promote domestic manufacturing. Correct answer: C. To protect consumers from substandard or unapproved drugs. Note: whole of the above lecture is also available in written text form in the comments under this video at our YouTube channel, Pharmacy Jobs and MCQs. So, you can take or study the lecture in the comments. Kind regards, Dr. Majid Body Pharmacist, PharmD, MPhil, LLB. Vice President, Pakistan Pharmacists Association PPA Punjab, 2023 to 2025. Contact +92 3214042036. Thank you.